Sup, my name is Ray for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. Welcome to Coffee Time, your Monday morning discussion video released in the evening. Wow, because we can. Anyways, for the topic get started today, which is, what can you do when your deck is, needs more love? It needs more support. What do you do in the meanwhile? What do you do when the power creep affects you so badly that you just don't want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And we're going to go over this because it's a big topic, at least for me personally. It's a big topic to talk about to you guys. But before we do so, if you don't want to hear the channel update, you're not interested, go a little bit ahead. Two things. We started live streaming a hell of a lot more. We do live stream Yu-Gi-Oh! Besides the games. If you do come in where you see us streaming video games, you can always ask the chat. We do have mods that we do actually do Yu-Gi-Oh! It's always like switches. It's a mixed stream. It's never just one thing. Like unless in the future, if Council Gaming, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about, gets any bigger, then it'll always be a mixed stream just because it's fun. I just want it to be fun. Anyways, like to the point, we do live stream on there, Ryu Avalon Gaming. We have 54 of you who followed, and we're just trying to build it up to 100 right now at the moment. And obviously over 500 people watching at the same time. Main reason is because we want to unlock those Twitch controls so we can actually allow you guys to basically micromanage things on your end a little bit easier than we can right now. Right now it just kind of falls on me and it sucks. But we do what we can. Otherwise than that, it's been great. We stream Halo 5 and Call of Duty and Battlefront next week, Just Cause 3, and a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff. We did theory crafting over there, and we did a bunch of Blue Eye stuff that I can't even bring over here because YGO Pro music apparently is copywritten, so just so you guys are aware. Anyways, with all that said, what can you do when the format gets you in the blues? Like, what can you really do when your deck just doesn't compete no more? How do you stay interested in the game? How do you still want to move ahead even though Konami wants to push new product? Now, there's nothing wrong with getting a new deck and moving on and not playing your old deck as much anymore. There's absolutely nothing wrong. As Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, we should have interest in playing new things because that's just honestly a thing that should be, in life. You shouldn't just sit there and play the same old thing, but that's not what today's about. So, we're getting a lot of legacy support for a lot of decks. Last week we talked about support. This week we're talking about what can you do till you wait for that support. Play for fun. This is pretty much the one biggest answer to when it comes down to it. You don't always have to play competitive. There's a fun aspect to the game. You just have to seek it. And it sounds weird. You get a bunch of friends together like we do, or you can come out to our streams, we do it, and you basically build a deck around one card. Or you take your coexisting deck and you just play that fun deck, and you make a rule like no meta decks with your friends, and you just go like that. And you have fun with it. You keep it casual. There's nothing wrong with the casual end of it. For my meta friends who wanted to basically say that meta or die, don't worry. I have meta stuff coming out for you over the next couple of days. Trust me. I don't leave out any, one person of Yu-Gi-Oh! I try to reach everyone. When it comes down to it, though, your deck may not compete with the tier 1 crowd. There's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, it gets boring to constantly be pummeled to the ground with the new expensive decks out there, Cosmos and Magispectors, and just basically those two, and then eventually Magicians and Pew Pew, Pendulum Pals and Friends. It's going to be one of those things that just always happens. It's happened with Tullidad, it's happened with GBs, it's happened with Lightsworn, it happened with Synchro, Centric, wherever the hell Konami named it. It happened with Blackwings, and obviously Blackwings are still pretty good, but they're not quite there, when it comes to meta, and there's nothing wrong with that. People still play it, they still love it. So, is fun just the obvious answer? No, you could play a more competitive version of the deck. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to play Maxis and Nordens in your deck because maybe they'll give you a little bit more power, but that's not for everyone. Some people just want to keep it more casual. Maybe you don't have the money to put into it as much, and there's nothing wrong with it. You just got to find that little perfect center for you, whether it be online or you get a bunch of friends that always come online, you play Yugs, and you can play in a more relaxed situation, or you just go to regional, don't give a fuck about winning, and just want to basically play your deck out as best as you can. there's not too many answers to this whole thing here, because Konami kind of limits everything we can do. Mainly because it's not about every deck needs support constantly. Decks are going to move on and not be as powerful as they ever were because the way Yu-Gi-Oh works. And yeah, maybe in the future there'll be a day that that's not a case scenario or situation that we have to go through or deal with, but till then, we got to make the best of it. We got to find ways. So make sure to share your ways of how basically you deal with it down in the comments. Obviously, I want to hear them, and it'd be good for the community. Now, while we do that, what do you do when you want to play more competitive and you don't have interest in the new decks? What do you want to do then? Well, you take your older deck, you recraft it, and you try to get it to work, and you try to do the best goddamn job you can. Because I honestly still wholeheartedly believe there is actual skill in this game, and that's kind of hard to say. That's why I was like, for a second. When it comes down to it, if you can slow down the bigger decks to your level, you're going to regionals or you're going to YCS, and you know that there's going to be 50% Cosmos and like 20% Magispectors and 30% Monarchs, let's say for the future, and you know your deck works extremely well against one but doesn't work against the other two. That's when you start looking at what is the exact thing I could decide that would hurt all three of these decks. And there is something that would hurt probably all three of those decks. And you go, okay, I gotta work with that first and then go from there. And you rebuild your deck. You basically give it bionic legs and you make that sucker work. And you keep playtesting it and playtesting it and playtesting it. And that honestly for me is fun to do at times, because it just allows me to keep my deck going. Something like Chaos Dragons, I still have that competitive edge with the deck. I can still go out there, and it may look like a clusterfuck to you, but goddamn, when that bitch works so fucking well, and she always does for me. She just goes out there, does what she's supposed to, knocks it out of the park. I don't know why us guys always say she instead of he, or just the deck. I should just be saying just the deck. It's kind of like my car. It's the one thing I care about, really, really like personal to me, which is Chaos Dragons. When it comes down to it, you're gonna have to run crazy techs, or maybe that's not for you. Maybe you gotta run basically some stuff that'll slow down everything else, or maybe you have to do something that most people wouldn't think to do. A combo or two that wasn't seen before, but it's now plausible because of the way your deck works. Something like GBs could actually work in today's meta because Cosmos have to swing. The only bad matchup you would probably have is Magispectors. And to get around Magispectors, well, I won't lie to you, that one's going to be fairly tricky. But I honestly believe a little bit of creativity and maybe a little counter fairy support, you could actually make it work, as crazy as that one sounds. And some of you may say, well, I don't have all the money for the counter cards, or I don't have the money for this stuff, grade that. Work with what you have, take it from there. That's what I always tell people. There's always a possibility, there's always a way. If you're willing to put the time and effort into it, you're not willing to give up, you're not willing to surrender on this game, it can be frustrating. But I've learned in the past couple of years, even though things can be frustrating, they were worth the time and effort to get to go. They were worth the time for you to put in as much as you can to invest into it. And you guys have us too, so if you just want to play a little more fun, you can always come to us. You can always come to a stream or something, or you can always come when we're playtesting, and we could just have fun. And that's why I always try to bring to the table, while also looking at meta and new cards coming out and getting excited about it. I don't want to leave out people who just want to play their older decks because they only care about their older decks, and there's nothing wrong with that. I honestly, personally, don't care for Cosmos or Magispectors. I don't really have interest in playing them IRL. I have more interest in playing Dragoonides at the moment, because it's a deck that's challenging to get to really, I guess, to a more competitive aspect, and especially playing Blue Eyes. I'm also interested in Super Quantum because it reminds me of Power Rangers, things of that sort. And some of you may go, well, those decks suck. More power to you. But at the end of the day, they don't suck because they're not meta. They're just not up to snuff. There's a difference. If a deck sucked, it'd be piss poor and wouldn't work at all. Those decks do work, they're just not the greatest. So, what do you guys do when your deck doesn't do as well? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm ready for I'm ready for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. If you enjoyed what you watched, make sure to subscribe for more. If you've already been subscribed, make sure to check out our other channels. It's always in the description. You can find our Twitch link there, and we will be streaming, well, before this video comes out, way before this video comes out, we'll be streaming